Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome back to the second video in our story play series this week, focusing on facts and feelings. That is what we are rooting ourselves in this week. And for today's short video, I'm trying to do shorter videos this time just to give you something really specific to think about that you can easily incorporate into your own memory keeping adventures. And so today I want to talk about lists, because I think list style journaling is one of the best ways to easily start the process of including more feelings in your projects, more feelings-based storytelling in your projects. I just think it's one of the best ways. It's one of the best ways to get them out of your head. Get both the facts and the feelings, right? Get them out of your head and your heart and onto a page. And essentially it's a formula, right? We talked about that, I think, a little bit in yesterday's video. The formula is fact plus feeling. Essentially, it could be fact plus feeling equals story. Or it could be fact plus feeling plus fact plus feeling plus fact plus feeling equals story. And so we're going to focus on the concept of using lists as a way to tell more of our stories and to make sure that we are including both the facts and the feelings. So why lists? Let's just talk briefly about lists. In today's video, I'm going to show you just a couple examples of projects that include lists. I've done hundreds, if not thousands, of projects over the last 20 years of memory keeping. Lists show up often in my memory keeping adventures. And I want to tell you a little bit about why that is. Number one, I love lists because they help me organize my thoughts. So oftentimes when we approach journaling or memory keeping or storytelling, we probably come to it, or I know that people come to it because people have told me this over the years, come to it from a couple different places. One is you think that in order to tell a story, it needs to be in the style of academic writing that you learned in school. So that can actually become a hang-up for many people. And one of the best things about lists is that it helps us organize our thoughts. It's essentially, if you were in school and you were learning how to write a paper, right? And you have an intro and you have a body and you have a conclusion, a lot of times you may have mapped out your thoughts in advance. And oftentimes, even when you're planning for that structured academic writing, you may be documenting the pieces of that story in some sort of a bulleted list. That is the kind of thing that you can put on your scrapbook pages. It doesn't have to be the finished writing. It can be the individual thoughts that you want to bring together, because when you take each of those individual thoughts and you bring them all together, that is a story. So number one, why lists? It helps us organize our thoughts. For me, it definitely helps me organize my thoughts. Sometimes when I want to do list style journaling, I will type up my list. Maybe I'll rearrange it. Maybe I'll do it in chronological order. Maybe I would do all the facts first and then all the feelings. There's lots of different ways that you can work within the formula or the base foundation of having a list. There's lots of different ways that you can approach it. Here's a really simple one that I did a number of years ago now. This was actually in my type workshop, and I love using products to create homes for my journaling. And when I am creating homes for list-based journaling, it's almost easier. So in this case, this is a very much of a fact-based story, right? And it's about celebrating Anna at this season in her life. So I picked out 5 things I wanted to celebrate about her. I wanted to celebrate her big heart. I wanted to celebrate how I see her trying hard. I wanted to celebrate her love of playing. I wanted to celebrate her role as a sister in our family. I wanted to celebrate how much she loves music and art, and I wanted to celebrate how much she enjoys her friends. And so I have those, it's all listed out there. This is a great example of a project where I could have told more of the story. I could have gone into each one of those pieces of that list and added more feelings and added more facts, but this was enough for this particular story. So the actual phrases that I brought in here: you are loving, you are kind and loving to people. You try hard at school and sports. You love playing with your friends and on your own. You are a loving and kind sister to Simon. Music and art are two of your favorites, and I love how you enjoy time with friends. So within that particular list, there is a combination of facts and feelings. Some of the things are fact-based, right? But other things are feelings from me of the things that I see in her. Right? They are my feelings about her, my feelings about the kind of person that she was in 2015. They are my feelings, the things that I love about her, the things that I love about what I see in her. So bringing in both of those facts and feelings can be really short, or it can be significantly longer. So what lists do, number one, is they help me organize my thoughts. They help me from a visual standpoint. I like the organization of this, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. I love that, the visual organization of that. And I think that that's something that leads me to choosing lists out of my whole journaling toolbox as a way to communicate both facts and feelings. So number 2, I kind of hit on this a little bit. Lists remove the traditional writing expectations out of the equation. If you are somebody that finds yourself fearful of writing out your story because you are afraid that your writing isn't good enough, and I'm putting that in quotations, or you feel like, that it's going to take more time, or you're going to have to put more energy in to write out a longer story because you are carrying the weight of the academic expectations that were put on you when we were in school. Lists remove that. Lists they simplify that, because you're not having to think about, how do I bring all these words together in a paragraph? You're able to focus more strategically on the facts and then on the feelings, because you're not thinking like a big global long story. You can be shorter, it can be more specific, and it's giving you something very specific to think about. So I want you to let go of the need to write as if you were still in school. There's a lot of very positive things to say about being a strong writer or having a strong voice, and so much of that comes from practice. And so as I'm talking about list style journaling in the context of facts and feelings, I'm going to say at the end of this video that the best thing that you can do is practice. The best thing that you can do is practice list style journaling, is practice very directly. Here is my fact, here is my feeling. Here is my fact, here is my feeling. The more you do that, the more comfortable you will become with that style of journaling, and the more comfortable you will become including feelings in the stories that you do for your memory keeping. So again, the invitation here, the very, very specific, simple thing that I want to invite you to do today is simply writing one fact and then writing one feeling as the next thing on your list. So, I'm really serious, like number 1, period, fact equals this. Here's a fact about this thing that I experienced. Number 2, period, feeling, ... Here's how I felt about this specific experience, or here's how I felt in the beginning. Here's how I felt in the middle. Here's how I felt in the end. Here's how I felt overall, right? Here I've given you all the facts. Here's some of my feelings about those specific facts. This style of journaling, list-based journaling, is really more about an opportunity to break things down into chunks so we don't have to be weighed down by the expectation of the bulk of a paragraph. Let go of some of that academic writing, of those academic writing expectations. And again, the most important thing here is that the academic writing is not the important part of this process of personal journaling and memory keeping. The important part is actually excavating and getting those facts and feelings out of your head and your heart and onto a page. And I think lists are just one of the easiest ways to do that. So lists can be bulleted, lists can be numbers, but lists can also come together to create a paragraph. If you still love the look of a paragraph, right? You want to see this big block of text. You want to see this big chunk of text. You can still do list style journaling and just put it into a block. In the case of this particular project right here, I used I think they're hash. I'm trying to think. I can't even think of what the name of it. Hash marks. Whatever those things are called, that's what I used in there. But you could use a dot, you could use an embellishment, right? You could use something fun from your stash. But basically what I was doing there is I was differentiating each of the different fact and or feeling based words that I was adding into this particular project. Another thing to note on this one is I used the phrase, I want to remember, and I just repeated that over and over again. I want to remember how each phase of time is a season and that they ebb and flow. That's one. And that's kind of a fact, right? That's a fact of something that I want to remember. It's also rooted in feelings. I want to remember the way Anna says, I love you over and over again throughout the day. Sometimes when she's recently been corrected on some sort of behavior, but also often just out of nowhere. I want to remember how rad gummy bears taste. I want to remember how much I love driving my kids around, even when it means I have to work later or that some things just don't get done on time. I want to remember how thankful I am that Katie is here to assist, commiserate, brainstorm, etc. This is back in 2015. I want to remember that nothing lasts forever. The challenging things and the awesome things, and the goal is to savor and wade through and embrace it for what it is in the time it is here. So much of the journaling and writing that I do these days is this kind of writing that is really rooted in facts and feelings coming together, right? Facts and feelings intertwining. The things that I want to remember, the things that I love about certain experiences. The facts are always there. The facts are always inherent, I think, and usually very specific in terms of what I'm doing. Here's a fact. I want to remember the way Simon's glasses fall down his nose. But within saying that one specific fact, there's a lot of feeling that goes into that, whether it is expressed or not. The fact that I want to remember the way Simon's glasses fall down on his nose is rooted in feeling. It is a fact rooted in feeling. I want to remember that work isn't everything, but I also want to remember that I'm very lucky to get to do something that has my heart. The fact there, right, is that work isn't everything. Work isn't everything, and I'm lucky. Those are both facts. But I also feel lucky. And I also feel like these are the things that I want to remember, right? So much of this is intertwined. So the tip that I always want to give people, again, coming back to how you can start doing this, is simply by starting very directly and very specifically. Here is a fact, here is a feeling. And the more that you do that, and the more that you are able to identify which is which, the richer your stories are going to become. And the more you will simply start your story from a place of feeling rather than just fact. It will make an impact on the way that you are telling your stories simply by practicing list-based journaling that focuses on facts and feelings. And number 3, lists help us excavate feelings. Getting feelings out of our heads and onto our hearts is really good for all of us. And I actually have something I'm going to share tomorrow when we talk about photos that's a little bit of a research-based thing in this arena. So the way that I always think about this, and I love the word excavate, because this is really what it does when you sit down to tell a story. And here's a picture of Simon. I'm going to tell a story about what's happening for him right now. What a list does for me is it helps invite me to tell more, right? So I put a number 1 down. I state something as a fact. Simon is 21 years old. Let's say I start with that. Number 2, what do I want to say about Simon right now? Simon right now is doing this and this and this, and this and this and this. Number 3, how do I feel about what Simon's doing right now? I feel pride. I feel excitement. I feel always a little bit of nervousness from a protective place. I feel, the more that I let one thing out, the more space it leaves for another feeling to come up to the surface. I think sometimes for me, I am full of feeling. I am full of thoughts. I'm full of facts. I'm full of feelings. I'm full of all of that. We all are. All of these stories already exist within ourselves, like they exist within us. And our job as memory keepers, as storytellers, and as people who prioritize this as a part of our lifestyle is to let those things out, because it's through that process of letting those out, of excavating the various levels of our stories. I think that's where the true benefit to us as people comes out, through the process of doing that. So by having a list, we are giving ourselves room to keep going in the story, right? We don't stop we don't have to stop because we feel like we've come to the end of a paragraph, or because we feel like we've put too many lines in there already, right? A list can be infinite if we want it to be, but it could also be 5 things. So you could decide when you sit down to tell a story, do you want to do 5 things today? Maybe you want to tell 5 things about your day. Or maybe you just want to start with that number 1 fact, and then you're going to do number 2 feeling, and then number 3 is going to be a fact, and then number 4 is going to be a feeling. And when you do it that way, you are inviting yourself to let more of the story out, to let more of it be told. And this is actually something that I come back to, and I've said this in other classes that I've done in the past, is this simple concept of tell me more. And this is something I say to myself when I am journaling and when I have a bigger story that I want to tell. I will literally say to myself, tell me more. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about how you were feeling. Can you think of any more feelings that you want to get down for this story? Can you think of any more facts that you want to include here in this story? And sometimes I do keep going, and sometimes I stop. And both of those are completely valid experiences, and both of those are a part of my overall memory keeping adventure. I'm not always telling more, but many times I am. And part of the reason is because I invite myself to. I've given myself permission to tell more of the story, to give more of the feelings that go along with those facts, because I know that not only does that benefit me, but it benefits the people in my family that are reading it, right? They are able to get to know pieces of me better than maybe they would have without it. So sometimes a list doesn't have to just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5 bullets in a row or whatever. Lists can be placed in shapes, and I do that often. If you are somebody that is a page protector style of memory keeper, you can have a list that's spread out over 6 different cards. Here's a great example of that, right? Here's my numbers: number one story, number 2 story, number 3 story, and then within each one of these stories, I am bringing in facts and feelings. I could have easily done this where each one of these cards, like the number 3 card, could have had bulleted journaling, and that would have been just fine. A lot of times for me, when I am writing by hand like this, I'm doing more stream of conscious. So I in my head am thinking, here's a fact and here's a feeling, or how, so far this has only been facts. Is there a feeling that I can add into this? And sometimes I just add one little feeling in there, but it's important to me to add in the feelings. It is a big piece of how I want to approach my journaling and the kind of storytelling that I want to do. I want it to be rooted in feelings alongside the facts. And I think that having that intention is also a big piece of the process. So number 4 thing that is also cool about lists is that it's really an opportunity to play with numbers and embellishments for each piece of the list. Many of us who are memory keepers come to this and we love playing with embellishments, and we love adding in little charms and different things that can help illustrate the list that we are telling. And if you are somebody that happens to be watching this for whatever the reason, and you're not a scrapbooker, but you're a journaler, and you maybe it's just you're like drawing a little star at the front of each one of your lists. It's just a fun way to visually break things up, right? And not have it all be in a paragraph. We just happen to be a community of people that have embellishments available to us and things that we can add in to make our storytelling just a little bit more fun. Here's an example of that. This one was 5 things, right? Kind of talking about 5 kids and 5 things. And this one is really, it's kind of fact-based, right? So it was capturing a picture in at a point in time, which I think was, again, 2015. Some of these projects are ones that I pulled from the type workshop. So the first thing on my list here is just identifying who the 5 kids are and what their ages are. Those are facts, right? The next piece in my journaling, in my list journaling here, is 5 personalities and attitudes and opinions and desires, loved and embraced for who they are. I feel like that one is an aspirational fact and also rooted in feelings, right? That I am acknowledging by simply writing this down that these are people with each of their own individual personalities, their own individual attitudes, their own individual opinions, and their own individual desires. And it doesn't take, it's not a huge leap to understand that those things are not all in synchronicity all the time. Number 3 on my list here, I got my little stars on there. 5 awesome souls who deserve individual attention and lots of hugs, right? And that gets back to that whole concept of just acknowledging that there's 5 different personalities. And when you have 5 different personalities, then you need 5 different individualized ways of approaching that. In this style of journaling, there are feelings on the surface, but there are also feelings underneath. And this is why I couldn't only just do lists, right? I do a lot of lists, and I love lists as a visual method of communication, as a way of organization, as a way to make sure that I'm getting facts and feelings in. But I also love the longer writing as a way to flesh out more of those feelings and flesh out more of those. And there isn't a right or a wrong, and there isn't, like, oh, I wish I would have done a longer story on this one. It's not like that at all, because I've told enough stories over the years that I know that I have a good balance between the different styles of storytelling that I like to do. Let's go back to this one. 5 kids who love the outdoors, who love adventures, and who are excited about life. That's kind of a fact. That's more of a fact. It is capturing my perception of life at that point in time, right? Kids who love the outdoors, who love adventures, and who are excited about life. And then the last one there was like 5 different life stories coming together from time to time to create a new story. And that's what our lives have been like. So thinking about adding in embellishments, that's a fun thing for us as memory keepers. It's a nice way to use up some of the things we have in our stash. It's a nice way to give, create visual hierarchy as we are working through all of these different things. But this is also the kind of things that you can just open a notebook, right? Open up a notebook and write down 5 facts about right now and 5 feelings about right now. In fact, that's something that you could absolutely do as you are sitting here listening to me. You could pause the video right now, grab your piece of paper. What are 5 facts about your life right now? And what are 5 feelings about your life right now? The feelings do not have to relate directly to the facts that you have listed. You can do it that way. You can put one fact, and then you could do a feeling, and your feeling could be related to the fact that's on the top of the list, but it might just be 5 facts captured from right now, and then 5 feelings captured right now. Now, as you get into thinking about capturing more feelings or wanting to add more feelings into your memory keeping adventures or your journaling adventures, most of the time the facts are easy, right? Because the facts are things that we can see and the facts are straightforward. But the feelings are often not straightforward, and the feelings can be confusing, and they can be overwhelming, and they can be super, super high and super, super low. So as you embark on a journey to include more feelings, one of the things that I want to encourage you is to be nice to yourself. Be nice to yourself as you examine the feelings that you're having. And then choose, is that something that you want to include in your memory keeping? Is that a feeling that helps make more sense of a particular story that you're telling. And be nice to yourself through the process of all of that, right? Be nice to yourself in the process of deciding that you might want to do something a little bit different in your memory keeping. Be nice to yourself if you decide you want to do a list of 5 things and you do 4 facts and 1 feeling. Right? Be nice to yourself. Be nice to yourself if you find that you have time to scrapbook a particular story and you find yourself stuck in your feelings. Start making a list. That's like a brainstorm, right? Brainstorm out the list of feelings, and then you can pick and choose what feelings you might want to include in a particular story. So being nice to yourself is part of it. Now, in today's blog post, I have included a link to this PDF, which I just found via a quick Google search for a feelings list. Because one of the things that I have found in my own life, sometimes it can be hard to identify feelings. And, we feel them, we know them on the inside of ourselves. Sometimes they feel really good. Sometimes our feelings feel good. Sometimes our feelings feel not good, right? There's this wide range of them. And I think it's a really cool and worthwhile activity to learn more about identifying specific feelings. Like what's when you might feel numb or disconnected, there are more specific words that you can consider using. What's the difference between aloof, bored, confused, distant, empty, indifferent, isolated, lethargic, listless, removed, resistant, shut down, uneasy, withdrawn, right? All of those are under that category of disconnected or numb. And by identifying more specifically what our feelings are for a situation, for a story, for a memory, the better we are at identifying the feelings, I think the more accurate and complete story we can tell. And even somebody like me who does lots of writing, lots of feelings-based writing, I haven't always focused on going, what is that next level? Like, what is the actual feeling? What is a different word for that feeling? So I'm kind of excited about working on incorporating this into my own memory keeping and journaling. So I'm actually going to print this out and have it here on my desk so that as I am, making a list of facts and feelings, I can look to this list and be like, okay, that I feel very, let's see, I'm trying to look at it. I feel very grateful, right? Gratitude is something that I use in my own memory keeping and in my journaling and doing gratitude lists. Obviously, that's something that a lot of people do, but that is something that should never be discounted. It is such a positive thing to do in your life, even if it sounds cheesy and maybe you're like, I don't want to do that because everybody else is doing that. There is such a value in acknowledging and writing down the things that we are thankful for. But look at all these other words that can be used in that too, as you are thinking about the things you are thankful for. Appreciation, blessed, delighted, fortunate, grace, humbled, lucky. Do you feel moved? Do you feel thankful? Do you feel touched? Like which one of those actually gets to those things that are on your gratitude list? So this is a kind of new for me in terms of giving myself a little bit of a project to work on 2 things related to feelings, right? One is being more specific. And I guess it's kind of the same thing, more specific and more accurate in terms of what is the actual feeling that I'm having about this memory, or what is the actual feeling I'm having about this particular story. I think there's an opportunity for all of us to grow as writers, as memory keepers, by getting more specific and more, going a little bit deeper into how we actually feel about certain situations and certain stories that we might be telling. So this list is on the blog. Definitely go check that out as a way to create more lists, right? As you're writing out your list, as you're telling your story using a list, that can be a great resource. So really what I've been talking about today in using lists, and it's an entry point, right? We're using facts and feelings this week as an overarching theme. And underneath that initial theme of facts and feelings is the concept of using lists. as a journaling technique, as a tool in your toolbox. And really what we are doing when we have a toolbox is we are approaching journaling with intention. So by actually even just establishing a toolbox in the first place, we are bringing intentionality into our memory keeping practices, and we are saying, this is something that I would like to try, and that is my intent, right? I would like to try bringing more feelings into the journaling that I'm doing. I would like to try doing more lists. I would like to try this concept of having a fact and a feeling, a fact and a feeling, a fact and a feeling. That is approaching our storytelling with intention. And it's hard to go wrong. It's hard to go wrong by bringing even if you dial it up 5% to bring more feelings into your memory keeping and your storytelling, that 5% will probably make a difference. Going beyond the facts in just that little bit of a way will likely make a difference in how you feel. And as you begin then to excavate more of the feelings that are related to the stories you're telling, I think you're going to create more space for new thoughts, new feelings, new stories to be told. So what I want to encourage you to do today is to do what I talked about a few minutes ago. Make up a list, grab a piece of paper right now. I want you to write 5 facts about right now and 5 feelings about right now. And it could be about today. And maybe you want to do this for a couple days, or you do this for a week, or you create some sort of practice around it where each day at the end of the day, you're jotting down 3 facts from the day and 3 feelings from the day. So much about all of this and about what I do is rooted in practice. And for me, it's just something that I do now, but it's because I've practiced it over and over again. I've shown up for myself over and over again, and I've told such a wide variety of stories that have included both the facts and the feelings. And through that showing up for myself, I feel like I've gotten to a place in my life where I'm understanding myself better. And it's really just about practice. And this is something that you can do as a memory keeper. Each time you go to tell a story on your scrapbook page, maybe for a while you just do lists, and you just do lists that focus on facts and feelings. And don't be surprised if, a little bit down the road, you sit down to tell a story, and rather than wanting to make a list and rather than wanting to approach it from facts and feelings, you might naturally start doing that. It just may simply become a process of the way that you tell your stories. You've got this. This is something that you can do. This is something that you can give yourself permission to do. Keep it simple. Fact, feeling, or do 3 facts and do 3 feelings, and practice that for a while. And then let me know how it goes. All right, guys, we're going to see you back here tomorrow, or in the next video if you're watching this at a different point in time. And tomorrow we're going to talk about layers in photos. So the story layers that are within photos that help excavate those facts and feelings.